I gave you guys a chance to ask me anything training, business or life on Instagram, and today I'm going to answer your questions.
Let's go for that.
How do you deal with mild injuries? Do you raw dog your workouts or wait to heal? My lower back's killing me. I don't do either, to be honest with you. I don't think you should do either of those. When you're injured, you shouldn't ignore it, because if you just push through, then you're going to make it worse. Like, it's just going to get worse. It's not going to heal. And if you do nothing and just wait for it to heal, it's not going to heal, because injuries don't just heal on their own. They need to be given stimulus to get better. When you've got an injury, what you need to do is basically two things. Keep doing the things you can and adapt your training as you need to. So say you've got a injured ankle, you're probably not going to do hill sprints for your cardio, but that doesn't mean you need to stop training your cardio. You just might adapt the training to now do assault bike sprints, so it puts less pressure on the ankle. However, you also might still be able to do like deadlifts perfectly. It might not be too painful to do deadlifts on, so do what you can, adapt it if you need to, but just keep that going. And then in terms of the functions that have been affected by the injury, you just regress them to the point that you can train them like normal, like an RPE 7, RPE 8, and you progressively overload them back to normal function. So you don't want to just leave them. You want to be training them appropriately, and you certainly don't want to ignore them. I've actually done a video on a few different things around injury before, but I've done one specifically on the back, so click a video that is somewhere around here and you can check out a bit more about that. All right, next one. How did different breed become a team? Emily? Come here. So, how did different breed become a team? So, I'm going to start off here. What it started off is I was getting pretty busy, and I'd been perving on Emily. No. Basically, Emily was friends with who is now our business partner, Ree, but at the time was my client, Ree. Long story short, I'd put the charm on Em at Ree's powerlifting comp, and we were hanging out a little bit, and I was getting really busy, and what was different breed at the time, it was just me. But anyway, I was just complaining about how I was quite busy, and then Em just was like, I'll do a bit of work with you if you want. And then like a couple of weeks later, I was like, are you serious? And you went, yeah. And I went, all right, do you want to do it? And then that's what started it as a team. Much, yeah. Have you got anything to add to that?
Well, I was just going to say, I was doing my own thing at the time. I was doing in-person PT sessions, but I knew that I wanted to progress it further and sort of expand. And I thought what you were doing was really cool, because I was seeing your account grow, like, just before we met. And like just seeing what you do with your own, like, it was just a really different like world to me. So I was like, fuck it, this seems like a good sort of like step, and here we are.
Yeah, and then it just kept snowballing. So then we kind of did that, and then Ree got involved. Then we were a team of 3, and then that's when we started being like, what does this look like, rather than just being like, just kind of randomly doing work versus building a business.
Yeah.
And then we started building a business and developing to an actual team with roles and blah, blah, blah.
It wasn't long after Ree joined us that we then did our first hire.
Yeah, so it was all pretty quick after that, but it started off with them just being like, yeah, I'll do some work with you.
Yeah.
How long it had been? 2 months at that point?
Yeah, 2, maybe 3 months.
Fucking...
We started working together in January 2024, and we met in September. So we technically like went into business together after.
Yeah, like, so we would have started talking about it about 2 months, yeah.
Yeah.
Gangster.
So pretty cool.
Safe. Cheers for that.
No worries.
What do you really think about the McGill method? My understanding is the McGill Big 3 is 3 bodyweight movements people use for core stability, and they just get over-prescribed by physios. The movements in and of themselves are not bad. Like, they're actually a really great way to start rebuilding function if you're injured. The problem is, if you want to get back to deadlifting like 300 kilos, doing a fucking bodyweight bird dog isn't going to get you back there. And people kind of try and use them as a movement that's going to get you fucking all the way up to elite performance. It's just not. They're a starting point for rehab of an injury. They aren't the be all and end all. So I don't really like hate the movement. I just make fun of the McGill Big 3 because it's been sold as this kind of like golden bullet that isn't really a golden bullet. How to do cardio without mindless jogging. There's a lot of ways to train cardio. If you don't like just mindless jogging, then what I'm going to guess is you don't really like low intensity cardio, and that's okay. It is useful to do, but it is boring to just do fucking like 2 hours of really easy cardio, like 2 hours of running or an hour of running, however long you do. And you don't necessarily need to do it. It's beneficial, there's reasons to do it, but in terms of health and performance, you can develop a pretty fucking solid cardio system without needing to go too deep into smashing zone 2 all the time. So what I would suggest you do instead is either use some sort of like assault bike sprint workout or some other alternative cardio machine like a skier, maybe alternating between the two, keeping things faster paced. It's just a bit higher intensity, takes less time. Or I'd play around with some metcons or cross training, depending how you like to call it. And that's just where you'll take a multimodal approach to cardio. So a really good example of this would be how CrossFit trains cardio. Maybe Fran, where you do 21, 15, 9, alternating pull-ups and thrusters. So you do 21 pull-ups, 21 thrusters, 15 pull-ups, 15 thrusters, 9, 9. Really sharp, really fast, high intensity. You can also do things like chippers though, where it's like maybe a 40-minute workout where you're gonna do a mile run, 30 deadlifts at 120 kilos, 200 push-ups, 200 air squats, mile run, something like that. I think you've just got to get creative with it, you know, try a few different things. What's the best piece of advice you could give to someone who wants to coach people? Just get started. That's all you need to do. When I got into PTing, it was actually all motivated by the fact I realized I didn't really like the degree I was doing. I was doing mechanical and electrical engineering. I went to the professionalism day where we saw what it'd be like to work in an office, and I thought, this looks fucking horrible. I don't want to do that. So that actually motivated me to swap degrees because I didn't know if PTing was going to work out, and it motivated me to borrow £800 from my mum to start a PT course, which I think I was meant to pay back, and now thinking about it, I don't know if I actually did. So sorry, mum, if I still owe you that money. But long story short, all I did is I got started. I got my PT qualification, a level 3 that I did online alongside uni. So I did it part-time. It's meant to be done in 9 months. It ended up taking me about a year. I actually got failed for using RPE as an intensity measurement for deadlifts. And I had to redo it. So they told me RPE wasn't real. So it wasn't the best one. And you don't need to necessarily have a good course to become a great coach. You know, there's a million ways to learn. But get your course done. Find a gym that will let you train there. So I went and asked the gym I was training in, and I was super lucky. Sweatbox were just like, yeah, sure, jump straight in. It was just coming out of COVID, so I think restrictions in England ended 2021 in April. And I just asked them if I could start coaching. They said, yeah. I had a couple clients that I'd been training for free to get my skills up before I was in a gym. And I was really fortunate that they gave me 2 months for free at Sweatbox. They said, just see if you can make it happen. See if you can actually make some money and then start paying us if you can. And I did, and it all went from there. So really the best bit of advice I can give you is just get going. Get a qualification so you can legally train people, you can get your insurance, and go and find somewhere that will let you train people and start training them. It's going to start slowly. You will never just jump into training and have 30 clients, a full-time business, know what you're doing. I change my opinions on training all the time still. I change my opinions on coaching all the time still. You've just kind of got to get going. All right, let's go on to the next one. What are your best tips to stay consistent? Quite a lot of different things come to mind. Let's go surface level, because otherwise I'll yap forever. I think an immediate thing you can do to stay consistent is do something you like. Set a routine in which you do it that's realistic. If you're going to stay consistent with a training routine, there's no point trying to train 6 days a week if all you can actually do is train 3 days a week, because you're just going to feel like a failure, get burnt out, and it's stupid. So make sure you enjoy it. Be realistic. And honestly, I do think that not enough people use this one, because everyone always wants to have strategies and this and that, but sometimes it is also just do the fucking thing. If you're on a cut, for example, say you want to lose a bit of weight, just don't eat an amount of food that makes you maintain or gain weight. It's not that hard. It's sometimes it is just make the decision to do it. If you're meant to go to the gym 3 times a week, fucking get in the car and go to the gym. Again, this is why you kind of need to make it something enjoyable, because it's a lot easier to just do something that you like. But the reality is there is eventually going to be a point where it's not going to be fun, or it's going to be inconvenient, or it's going to be this, or it's going to be that. So you can put all of these strategies in the way, and those reduce friction. Of course, you want to reduce friction as much as possible, but there is a point where you just have to turn up and do the thing. And I think sometimes if you just tell yourself, just fucking go and do it, you're more likely to do it. I don't know if that's the answer that anyone wants to hear, but it's the one I'm giving you. Is a Don Fry style moustache optimal for generalist training? Yes. Parkour is the better of JJ. 3 arguments to change my mind. This was actually shortened down a little bit to fit into the Instagram question box, because you don't get to write a full question. And I've actually been chatting to the person who asked this question about this. Now, this is Stavali, who is my parkour coach. He's an absolutely ridiculously good mover and a really good coach. He just thinks that I should do more parkour than I should do jiu-jitsu. And obviously 3 reasons to change my mind. And I think in terms of being healthier, with less injuries, being more athletic in the way I can move around my environment, and what would actually probably develop more both physical qualities and physical skills, probably going to be parkour. I think it is probably objectively better for most people, including myself, in terms of their actual performance and health. Jiu-jitsu is pretty hard on the body. It doesn't actually develop that many interesting movement options. It's very specific to grappling. There's not much like it, but Obviously, the reason you're going to do jiu-jitsu maybe over parkour is just because you enjoy jiu-jitsu. I think that's really the only reason I can give it. But what I will do is give you 3 reasons that I do it and I prioritize it in my life at the moment. Number 1, I just enjoy it. It's a really challenging puzzle and you can go pretty hard without getting hurt too much. It's not something like MMA or Muay Thai where if you're going really hard, you're getting like big hits to the head. So you get to go really hard in this problem solving dynamic quite a lot, which is just enjoyable. So it's a really fun game to play basically, and you can play it hard. Number 2, it's good for self-defense. Obviously I've done a bit of striking, I've done a bit of MMA, and I think if you've never done any striking or any MMA, you're probably not gonna have the best self-defense in the world. But if you are a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, well, as long as that person isn't actually a really good striker with takedown defense and they're just someone who's attacking you, you're gonna take them down, you're gonna choke them out. So you know how to defend yourself, and that's always useful. And number 3, the reason I'm doing it is honestly, I just kind of set the task. I got like cauliflower ear. They're not awful, but they're not great. It's a bit shit if I don't get a black belt, but I've got mash up ears. So I'm just on that path until I hit that, I guess. How do you manage your posts to grow your social media? So I would love to give you like a really complicated strategy plan. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for when they say that. To be honest with you, I think a little bit was luck. When I blew up on Instagram, will say blew up. I know I'm not fucking mega famous, but I went from having about like 3K followers to over 100 within maybe like a 5-6 month period. So it was pretty fast. Maybe it was more like 8-9 months, but it was sub a year. And it was a time where it was easy to do so. There are a lot of creators that are kind of adjacent to me doing that. So partially, I'm gonna say luck is part of that. But the reason I was able to hit that sort of lucky streak was because for about 2 years before that, I was posting every day, twice a day, trying to do something valuable. And really that's all you need to understand about social media. If we think Instagram specifically, it's about consistency and giving value. If you consistently give value and try and improve your content in the sense that you try and improve its retention rate, the fact that you try and improve its ability to take saves, you improve the comments and you interact with your audience. If you do that, you are gonna grow. You're gonna find an audience. That's really it. There's nothing like fancy to it. There's no specific post time you should do. There's no fucking, I don't know, scheduled type of posting here and there. It really is just consistency, value, and that's it. If you want a tip, really the only differentiator I'd maybe make between Reels and swipe posts is that swipe posts, you're gonna make them really fucking valuable because they're not gonna get shown to non-followers anyway, just because Instagram doesn't really do that. For a Reel, it still needs to be valuable, but you're gonna make it slightly more hooky, slightly more virally to try and get a bit more attention because it's going to get shown to non-followers. But the non-followers are not going to enjoy that reel and come and follow you if it doesn't provide them value, which means they're getting some sort of education or some sort of laugh or something else out of it. Back training and injury prevention, maybe a funny about your Brazil travels. So, I mean, that's not a question, but I will give you a funny about my Brazil travels. And I think this is a perfect example of how misrepresented Brazil is in Western media. So before we came here, everyone was telling us that it was like fucking well dangerous. You can't get your phone out on the street. If you need to walk a block at nighttime, you're gonna fucking die. And like, it was completely untrue and it's really safe. But the one thing I sort of had bought into is that all the favelas are really dangerous. And this is also not true. And we went to a party with our mate in a favela called Rochinha, which is like somewhere over there. And on the way up, we had to get these bikes. So you go in, at least the entrance we went in, you went in like here, and then there's this big taxi stand of like loads of motorbikes, and they just fucking pull up, you jump on the back and you shoot off. And Gabe had been like, yeah, I told the guy where you're going, just get on the bike and go. And Em and Gabe just gone, and I was like, right, I'll just wait. At this point, we'd kind of just got to Brazil still, so my Portuguese has got quite a bit better since being like immersed here for so long, but at this point it was still very rough. And I get on the back of my guy when he comes up, right? It's been about 10 minutes since these two have left. And we're fucking driving and he starts saying something to me and he realizes I don't speak Portuguese and he fucking stops the bike and he starts offering me a tour this, tour that, blah, blah, blah. And fuck, like, I just want to go to this thing. I'm showing him on the map and it's called like Vidigal something where we're going. And there's another thing called Vidigal and he's just blah, 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 blah. He's talking so fast and I'm like, no. He's saying like mil reais, which is like 100 reais. And I know the journey we're going on was 10 pounds, not 10 pounds, 10 reais, so like days. And I'm trying to be like, nah. And anyway, eventually he says Vidigal and I'm like, yeah, Vidigal. And then we go, and we're going for like half an hour, 40 minutes. Like, it's a while, but I didn't think it was that long. I thought I was just being scared, because you're on the back of this bike, just fucking swerving between people and shit. You haven't got a helmet, it's quite scary. There's like loads of bikes around you. And then fucking we're driving for ages, and then I didn't know how long we've been gone, because I'm just sitting on this bike, and he keeps being like, don't hold on the bike. And I'm like, fuck. I want to hold on the bike. He's like, no, it's going to tip. And it's just fucking terrible experience. And I kept fucking headbutting the back of his helmet. And he just drives me all the way to this random place called Vidigal as well. So I'll explain further on. But basically, we pull into this dark corner of this fella really far in. And like, I've got no signal on my phone. And there's like maybe 4 guys there all sat on bikes. Everyone looks at me and he's like, cool. And I'm like, and he's asking me for the money. And I'm like, bro. And obviously, if you look at Western media, they'll be like, yeah, you're going to get mugged, there's guns, blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking, fuck, have I fucked up here? Am I going to get, like, fucking kidnapped? And then literally all that happened was, like, the guy who looked like the boss man, I just said to him, I was like, look, mate, like, I explained it, Portuguese. I said I need to go here, and I'm here, I don't know where I am. And he looked at the guy and went, why aren't you taking where he wanted to go? And I think basically the guy had just taken the piss a little bit. Like, it just kind of, like, almost played a joke on me, I think, is that's kind of somewhat how I interpreted it. Because the boss told him off, and then he put me back on his bike and took me to where I was going without me needing to show him. And then when I offered him, like, extra money for the second journey, he was like, nah. So it's completely fine. So basically, kind of funny story. I thought I'd got kidnapped. Really, I think someone was just playing a bit of a prank on me because I was a gringo. That was it. And it was completely safe. Like, the entire situation was solved by me being like, oh, can you take me to where I'm meant to be? And I was pretty scared. And then when we went to the party was great. We had a great time. And we fucking walked back home through the favela at like 3 a.m. and it was completely safe. We chatted to some young lads. Like, we chatted to people who, like, you'd be like, oh, those are the ones who are going to mug you. It was like some young guys sat in the dark. And then we just chatted to them, and we were like, oh yeah, we need to go that way. And they're like, oh yeah, mate, it's down there on the right. Obviously not in English, but blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's just completely fine. So kind of a funny story, because I thought I was being kidnapped. It turns out I was just having a bit of a prank played on me, really. How to transition from in-person to online PT, also pros plus cons. So if you want to transition online from in-person PT, my advice is very similar to the advice I gave about if you want to start coaching people, and that is just get started. If you're already coaching in person, then you've got a stable income and you've got a place where you can film digital resources for your online clients. So you're in the best situation possible to start. So really, you've just got to get started. To do that, you just need to find a way to take payments, a way to deliver your coaching, and you need to start advertising that you're doing it so you can start taking on some clients. When I started, I had 5 people paying me £20 a month. That was it. But it was enough to get started, because you're not going to start your online business with everything perfect. You're not going to have the perfect lead gen system, the perfect coaching approach, the perfect contracts. Like, you're going to have to figure all of this stuff out by iterating over and over and over again. So the best thing you can do is just get started, because once you're started, you can start iterating and you can start building that business, slowly making that transition. And as you make that transition, my advice is just as you build your money up on the online business, you reduce your work in the in-person until you completely swap over. When I was doing it myself, I like to prove that I could sort of consistently make the money for like 3 months in a row before I would drop the in-person work. So you delay it a little bit, because when I first went online, I made like half the money I made in person. I dropped half the clients and then I made like no money. It was a whole fucking faff. My advice is just build it up slowly, drop it down slowly. In terms of pros and cons, I think it really depends on you and your life. I love working online. I'm young, I want to travel. It gives me an awful lot of freedom, and I like the work I get to do on the back end of creating systems and designing documents and all this sort of like fluff you get to do with online work. I really enjoy that. But that might not be enjoyable work to you. And of course, say you've got kids and you're staying somewhere permanently, there's no reason that you need to necessarily set up your work so you can travel freely whenever you want. You could easily have in-person clients, even if it wasn't all your work in person. So the pros and cons, I think you really need to weigh up based on what you want out of life and how you live your life. Can you touch your nose with your tongue? No, not even fucking close. Fun fact about me, I was born with a tongue tie, which I don't know what this is called, but like, that bit that's attaching your tongue to the bottom of your mouth, for me was like too big when I was born. It was all the way to the front of my mouth, and they had to go in there and cut that shit up. It was so bad when I was younger, I wasn't able to put my tongue far forward enough in my mouth to say Sam, and I'd call myself Damn. So I'd be like, hi, I'm Damn, because I couldn't say Sam. And I had to do some speech therapy and stuff. I didn't take it seriously enough though, and I wish I did, because sometimes when I'm saying green, I say Gween, and Em always makes fun of me, so. All right, guys, that is it for all your questions. I hope you enjoyed that. It's the first time I've ever done a Q&A like this. I certainly enjoyed filming it, so if you did enjoy it, let me know in the comments, because I will make more like this. If you hated it though, you can also let me know in the comments, and I will not make more like this, because I don't want to give you content that you hate. As always, hit subscribe if you want to see more from the Different Breed team and myself. We post videos regularly about all things training, fitness, and fucking being an athletic beast. You know the deal by now. Thanks for being here, guys, and I will catch you next week.